Today is December 11th, 2025, and we're going to be discussing from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Nectar of Devotion, Vibhava Alambana Ashraya, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharne Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarne, Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha, Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Sam Sajivam, Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha, Vanchakalpajubhishcha Kipasindhavata Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavabhi Namo Namo. So welcome everybody. So again, this is the Bhakti Ras Amrita Sindhu, the nectar ocean of the relationship or mellow of devotion. And here in the Southern Ocean, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving us the basic template of the 5 components of rasa: vibhava, ecstatic excitants, causes of ecstasy; anubhava, subsequent ecstasy, or voluntary expressions. Vibhava is the stimulants. Sattvika bhava, involuntary ecstatic expressions. Vyavichari bhava, or sanchari bhava, transient ecstatic disturbances, what Prabhupada calls aggressive ecstasy, because they are moving us. These are our various emotions. And sthai bhav is the basic connection, the permanent ecstasy. Prabhupada says, without some mixture of these 5 ecstatic principles, one cannot relish transcendental bliss. So we are still in the first wave of vibhava, or the stimulants for ecstatic love. This is part 2. We're going to be looking at the ashraya. So this is Nectar Devotion, chapter 25, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 21273 to 300. And these are the components of rasa. So the sthai bhav, there has to be a sthai bhav. Without a sthai bhav, or rati, also called rati, there's not going to be any rasa. The sthai bhav is acted upon by the vibhava, which is a stimulant that results in anubhava, or voluntary devotion, external physical devotional service; sattvika bhava, involuntary expressions like crying and shivering; and vyavichari bhava, which are transient emotions. And all of these 5 together have to be there for there to be rasa, or taste. So again, in English, you have the basic connection. That's your basic relationship with Krishna in, say, servitude, friendship, parental, etc. Then what stimulates you is the vibhava, what brings that out. You have your voluntary expression of that relationship. You may dance, you might sing, you might wash the pots. Involuntary expression, you might cry, your hair stand on end. Various emotions, there's going to be joy, there's going to be anxiety, there's going to be so many things, and those things come together and they make the taste. So here we're looking at in vibhava, the alambana ashraya, the devotee who's the reservoir, shelter of affection. This is again the stimulus for our love for Krishna. This is vibhava, what brings out our love for Krishna. And here is the category of ashraya. So vibhava refers to the 2 types of alambana: the person in relation to whom the rati are experienced, which is Vishaya, Krishna, which we talked about yesterday; the person in whom they are being experienced, the ashraya; and to the udipana, the stimuli by which rati is experienced. So vibhava, 2 main categories: alambana, basic, what Prabhupada calls basic; udipana, what Prabhupada calls impelling. Now, in one sense, the ashraya is ourself. In order for there to be rasa, there has to be, Prabhupada always talks about this, there has to be the Bhagavan, the Bhakta, and the Bhakti. So Vishaya is Bhagavan, the object of devotion, and Ashraya is the devotee who has the devotion. So in one sense, we're all the Ashraya of rasa. However, we're also looking here at other devotees who stimulate our love for Krishna. the ashraya. Okay. And as we mentioned already previously, but we'll mention again, that the devotees in the same mood are the ashraya, devotees in different mood are the devotees in the udipana. And when Krishna's qualities are seen as part of him, Krishna who is beautiful, that's Vishaya. When Krishna's beauty is considered separately, then Krishna's qualities become an udipana. So this is chapter 25. So the summary of chapter 25. Srila Prabhupada begins by pointing out that just as Krishna has so many qualities which stimulate devotees to love him, similarly devotees have so many of these qualities. There are so the devotees' qualities are also stimulating our love for Krishna. There are two subdivisions of devotees who stimulate ecstatic love for Krishna: sadhakas, the practicing devotees, and siddhas, the perfect devotees. So in other words, we can be inspired by sadhakas and we can be inspired by siddhas. Srila Prabhupada says the devotees of Krishna can be classified into two groups: those who are cultivating devotional service in order to enter into the transcendental kingdom, and those who are already in the perfectional stage of devotional service. So if we're going to look at the ashraya, the devotee as part of the basic impetus for ecstatic love. Again, this is in the vibhava, alambana, and then you've got the ashraya and the vishaya. This is a vishaya category. The ashraya category, sorry. So devotees as ashraya. So they can be classified by in different types, one by attainment and one by rasa. So by attainment, are they sadhakas or are they siddhas? Sadhaka means a practicing devotee, siddha means a perfect devotee. So siddha are in prema. Here siddha is defined not even as bhava, but as prema. And two main categories: samprapta siddha, people who become prema bhaktas, and nitya siddha, those who are always prema bhaktas. For those who have become prema bhaktas, we have two categories. They become prema bhaktas by sadhana and by mercy. One can also categorize the ashraya devotees by their relationship with Krishna, whether they're in shanta or neutrality, dasya in servitorship, sakya in friendship, vatsalya in parental, or madhurya in conjugal. So let's look at this again. We look at devotees because we're going to be going through each of these in turn. So the devotees as impetus, basic impetus for our ecstatic love, other devotees who inspire us, who stimulate us in our love for Krishna, and this can be understood in types. How they became devotees. Are they sadhaka devotees? Are they practicing devotees? Or are they perfect devotees? If they're perfect devotees, did they become perfect devotees? Or were they always perfect devotees? If they became perfect devotees, did they become perfect devotees by sadhana? Or did they become perfect devotees by mercy with little or no sadhana? Another way of categorizing both of these, both the sadhakas and the siddhas, is: are they in shantaras, dasyaras, sakyaras, vatsalyamas, madhuryaras? In other words, is their mood with Krishna in neutrality, in servitorship, in friendship, in parental, or in conjugal? Okay. So some general points. We brought this up before, but we're bringing it up again. This is from Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary on 2.1.273. So when we're considering, are other devotees going to be in the vibhava alambana ashraya category, or are they going to be in the vibhava udipana category? In other words, are they going to be in the basic category as the reservoir of bhakti, or are they going to be in the impelling category? Which category are they going to be in? So that we'll go back for 1 minute here to this slide, right? Vibhava, the stimulus, can be basic or impelling. And here we find the devotees. And here we also find devotees. So how do you know is a devotee in this category, this category. And that's an important distinction. This is actually a very, very important distinction. It is not a trivial matter. This is a very important matter. So here Srila Jiva Goswami is saying special great devotees attracted to the form of Krishna in a particular mood to whom Krishna, is similarly attracted are the alambana ashraya. This implies that the other devotees relative to the devotees should be classified as udipana in verse 21302. Okay, so here a further explanation by Srila Jiva Goswami. The rati experience within a person will be that which is cultivated by the experiencer and should not be dissimilar. If it is dissimilar but is not contradictory to his natural inclination in rati, rati means your staibhav, that type of rati acts as a stimulus being observed by him and others, but the person does not directly act as the alambana by directly experiencing that dissimilar rati. So, simple way to understand this. Let's say that you have started to awaken your love for Krishna as your child. So you started to awaken as a sadhaka feelings of parental love for Krishna. Other devotees who have a feeling of parental love for Krishna, whether they're sadhakas or siddhas, will be the ashraya for you. They'll be the shelter of your love for Krishna. Devotees who are in other rasas will be udipanas. You'll observe their devotion, and you may even feel some of their devotion. However, it will not be your feeling. They'll still stimulate your love for Krishna, but it will be very different. And this distinction is extremely important because in the practice of spontaneous devotion, one is supposed to particularly meditate on Krishna as the Vishaya in the particular way that resonates with your staibhav, and particularly meditate on the ashraya with devotees who are in the same or very similar staibhav. So, some simple material examples. If you're a book distributor, the other book distributors are going to bring out your mood of bhakti in a different way than the pujaris will. So the pujaris may also bring out your bhakti, but it's going to be different. And you're going to want to associate with all devotees, but you're going to particularly want to associate with the other book distributors. Sometimes we find this with god brothers and god sisters. So all the devotees are encouraging them in bhakti, but their god brothers, god sisters of the same guru may be particularly encouraging them. That's something like that. Or where you live in a particular devotee community, and the devotees in that community are bringing out your love for Krishna in a different way than devotees who live in other communities. So those who have the similar love for Krishna, as you do, are the ashraya. Those who have different types of love for Krishna can stimulate you as the udipana. So I hope that that is very clear. Again, this is an important distinction for our practice of bhakti. This is not trivial. No. I'm not saying it's equivalent. I'm giving some Vedic Prabhu. I'm not saying it's equivalent. I'm saying that this gives you some idea of what I'm talking about. These are analogies. So thank you for asking that. It's not that everyone in your community has the same rasa for Krishna or all the other book distributors have the same rasa for Krishna. I'm giving you a material analogy that people who are engaged in a similar mood, in a similar service, are going to stimulate your love for Krishna in a different way than those who have a different mood and a different service. So for those of you who have not yet realized to any degree your relationship, your eternal relationship with Krishna, this gives you some idea of what we're talking about. Is that now clear, Vedic Prabhu? Yes? No? Is that now clear?
No, Mataji. Difference we can't understand. I can't understand.
You can't understand. What is it you can't understand?
The two parts, either it is Ashraya or Uddipana.
Okay.
As far as I understood, both of them are having a different perspective. The
Yes.
uh, one which is distributing the book may give you a different stimulation than the one which is pujari or one who is teaching.
Depending on what you're doing. If you're a pujari, if you're a full-time pujari, then you're going to have enthusiasm in your service from other pujaris, other full-time pujaris, differently from people who have a different service. Is that clear?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So that's a metaphor, it's an analogy to the idea that if you're loving Krishna as a friend, the other devotees who love Krishna as a friend, they're ashraya for you. The devotees who love Krishna as a master, as a child, as a lover, they're udipana for you.
Okay, Mataji. That
Is
makes
that
sense.
is that clear? Yeah. So like,
Yes, Mataji.
yeah, when Mother Yasoda's love for Krishna, who would be an ashraya for Mother Yasoda?
Nanda Maharaj.
Nanda
Rohini.
Maharaj, Rohini,
Rohini.
exactly.
Rohini.
And her friends, her other friends of the same age, would be ashraya for her. Who would be
Mukara.
Udip? Hmm?
Mukara.
Mukara? Yeah. Okay. Who would be Udipana for Mother Yasoda?
Srimati Radharani.
Yes, exactly.
Gopabalas.
Yes, exactly. Phaneshwari Lakshmi, you have a question?
Yes, Mataji. So I guess I'm a little confused. When you're saying that the puja, so the other pujaris, I'm a pujari, the other pujaris may be the ashraya or the udipana, but
Ashraya.
okay,
Does they have the
yeah,
similar
yes, the ashraya.
someone who
Then,
has a yes, yes.
but their connection to Krishna, even though we're both pujaris, my relationship with Krishna in my sthai bhava,
That's just a
may,
material analogy. It's not totally material,
okay,
but it's just an
okay, I get
analogy.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got it. I guess I was connecting the two. Okay, so that's just an
No, don't
analogy.
connect the two. I'm
Okay,
trying to
okay,
give an ordinary life example to make it make more sense to you.
okay, that
That
helps.
people
Thank you.
who have a similar mood and a similar service to you are going to be an ashraya for you. Because see, the principle of rasa applies to everything that we do, not just to our spiritual relationship with Krishna. It applies even to
Say,
our mundane relationships.
can you say
This
that
whole
one more time? Say
this
that one
whole
more time.
science of rasa
Mm,
applies, like Prabhupada says in the preface, rasa is what drives anybody to do anything.
mhm.
So therefore, all these categories of rasa can be understood anytime anybody's getting any kind of pleasure from anything. So anytime anybody's getting any kind of pleasure from anything, there's going to be these five components of rasa. There's going to be a vishaya, an object. There's going to be an ashraya, a shelter. There's going to be udipanas as the stimulants. There's going to be a staibhav. There's going to be anubhavs. There's going to be sattvic bhavs. There's going to be vyavichari bhavs. Now, on the material level, these are reflections of rasa, really. On the spiritual level, they're real rasa. Now, we as sadhakas, let's say you haven't yet developed your relationship with Krishna. So, even as a sadhaka, these things are going to be operating to some way, in some form. It doesn't mean that all the other pujaris are in friendship with Krishna, are seeing Krishna as a friend, and you are too. It doesn't mean that. But I'm giving it an example so that you can understand the concept. Is that clear now?
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
Very good. Mahalakshmi?
So, what is stimulated by these devotees who have a similar service as my own is that they help me to feel more attraction towards serving Krishna, whether it may be dressing the deities or distributing books.
Yes. Well, this is all the vibhava is what stimulates us in our love for Krishna. That's the whole category of vibhava. So, what stimulates us in our love for Krishna? Well, first of all, Vishaya, Krishna. Second of all,
Yes.
Ashraya, devotees who have a similar mood to our own in loving Krishna. Then Udipana, and Udipana is like Krishna's peacock feather, Krishna's flute, Krishna's clothes, Ekadasi, Tulsi Devi, there's so many Udipanas, and one of the Udipanas is devotees who are not Ashraya for us.
Oh, who are the devotees who are not Asraya? Those perfected devotees.
Or sadhaka devotees who are not Ashraya, they're Udipanas.
I don't understand. A devotee who is not Asraya.
Who's
What
not
is the
our
difference?
Ashraya. Okay,
Not
so
our.
let's say that you love Krishna like a gopi, okay?
Yes.
Let's just say, for example, you love Krishna like a gopi. The other gopis are going to be your ashraya. Krishna is going to be your vishaya. The other gopis are going to be your ashraya. Mother Yasoda is going to be what? What's Mother
Mother
Yasoda going to be for you?
Yasoda. And Udipan?
Exactly.
Udipan?
Yes. So when you see Mother
Because she
Yasoda
feels
hugging
love for Krishna.
when
Just
you see
because she
Mother Yasoda
feels love
hugging,
for Krishna.
but it's different from the kind of love you feel for Krishna.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, or like Srimati Radharani, she was saying that, oh, the cowherd boys, they can embrace Krishna in front of the elders. So when she sees the cowherd boys embracing Krishna in front of the elders, her love for Krishna increases. So that cowherd boy is acting what? As an ashraya or an udipana for Srimati Radharani?
Udipan.
Exactly. Now, when she sees, Krishna smiling at Lalita, Lalita is acting as a what for Radharani?
Asraya.
Udipena.
Ashraya. Ashraya, because she's in the same
Asraya.
rasa.
Yes.
When Srimati Radharani sees that Krishna is loving with Lalita, Lalita is an ashraya because she's in the same mood as Srimati Radharani. Again, this distinction is
Thank you.
very, very important because especially as we advance in bhakti, then we are supposed to particularly meditate on the devotees who are ashrayas. Now, even as new sadhakas, Prabhupada says that we should be with people who are compatible and like-minded. When my god sister Yamuna wrote to Prabhupada that she was just associating with one other devotee, and then Prabhupada said, if two people are compatible, they can make all advancement, and if 200 people are not compatible, then nobody will make any advancement. So even as sadhakas, we may be inspired by devotees who are not compatible with us, but we're not going to have that same kind of association with them. So
Very clear.
I can be those devotees who are like-minded with me, even as a sadhaka who hasn't realized their rasa. So people who are compatible with me are going to be my ashraya. Devotees who are not compatible with me, as long as if they're not contradictory. But if they're not
The
contradictory,
word
What would be an example of a contradictory? Udipan, a devotee who Udipan who
they
would be
wouldn't be. They wouldn't be a stimulus at all if they're contradictory. If you want to get to contradictory at the very, very, very end of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's a whole section where Srila Rupa Goswami discussed contradictory. That's at the end of the Northern Ocean. And why is he discussing that? He's discussing that in terms of with whom we associate and what services we do. Can you say
the
you have
word
yes, Prem Prakash Prabhu?
the word Uddipana means catalyst.
Yes.
The catalyst is the one which doesn't actually participate in any reaction, but enhances the chemical reaction that is happening. Can
Excellent.
we correlate this word with the meaning of Uddipana and Ashraya?
Yes. Um, Faneshwari Lakshmi, I don't know if we want to use direct and the words direct and indirect because the words direct and indirect are used for other purposes in the science of rasa. So I don't know if we would want to say that. I think the Udipanas are also direct, but it's just a different kind of stimulation.
Okay.
And in Shantaras, do they see all the animals as Ashraya or only for the cows? Um, Everyone in the same rasa is to some extent an Ashraya, but yes, there are divisions within the rasa. And definitely we're going to be much more in the Ashraya category the closer and closer you get to your own particular way of serving Krishna. Even like within the cowherd boys, there's different groups of cowherd boys. Like some are arguing with Krishna, some are very mild. Among the cows, there's different groups. Among the gopis, there's different groups. So your ashraya is going to be especially those who are the more similar to you, the more that devotee is going to be an ashraya. Of course, there's never going to be anyone who is 100% similar to you because each of us are unique. Okay, according to advancement and attainment. Okay, so here we're looking at sadhakas and siddhas. Sadhakas and siddhas. So an ashraya can be a sadhaka or a siddha. So first we're going to look at the sadhakas, the practicing devotees. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami here is defining that sadhakas who are ashrayas are high levels of sadhakas because he's talking about in order to be an ashraya, you have to be in the same rasa. So this would have to be sadhakas who've realized something of their rasa. So he says a person who has attained the stage of attraction for Krishna and who is not freed from the material impasse, but who has qualified himself to enter into the kingdom of God is called a sadhaka. So this is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because Srila Prabhupada often uses the word liberation or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta also as far as somebody who's attained the stage of attraction. But here we see the person.
Apologize.
Can the organizers please mute everyone? But here we see that they're not free from the material impasse. So this would be nista through asakti or nista through bhava. So their nista is considered liberation, but it's not 100% liberation. I compare it to a prisoner who has been paroled from jail. So they're out of the jail, but they still have to check with their parole officer. Now, qualified to enter into the kingdom of God, you could say, how could you be qualified if you're not free from material impasse? Just this morning, I heard Srila Prabhupada say, if you have a pinch of material desire, you're not going to enter into the kingdom of God. However, one can enter into Krishna's pastimes in the material world if one is not totally free from the material impasse. We even have examples of gopis in Krishna's pastimes in the material world who become fully purified in those pastimes. Srila Rupa Goswami says that these are Majjhima devotees. He's talking about Majjhima. So the Kanista devotees are not going to act as an ashraya. If we're talking about sadhakas who are acting as an ashraya, they have to be at least Majjhima devotees, even though they're not free of all impurities. And as the definition of Majjhima, because there's many different definitions of Kanista, Majjhima, and Uttama, Srila Rupa Goswami is using the definition from the 11th canto. They have unflinching faith in and love for God. They have their friendship with the devotees. They're merciful to the ignorant, and they avoid non-devotees. So this is what he means by a sadhaka. He does not mean a kanista. And Prabhupada mentions that there will be some sattvika bhavs of crying and shivering. There could be other ones as well. Prabhupada talks about when you see shivering, the devotees nearing perfection. If they're crying, that the blazing fire will be extinguished by such watering. So this is again talking about sadhakas. They're exhibiting some of the sattvika bhavs. Now the example they give is of Bilva Mangala Thakur. Now Bilva Mangala Thakur, in his previous life, attained the stage of bhava, and then in the present life of Bilva Mangala Thakur, he was very attracted to Chintamani, who Prabhupada says, you call her a girlfriend, we call her a prostitute. He was very attracted to Chintamani, who eventually put him back on the spiritual path. So he had already attained the stage of bhava, but he wasn't free from the material impasse. So bhava can be described as part of sadhana. Bhava can be described as part of sadhana because only in prema is there full sadhya, but bhava can also be considered as part of sadhya. It's kind of a liminal or interim stage. Bhava is often described as the beginning of sadhya and the end of sadhana. It's kind of sanja. Okay, so I'd like to open this up for a general discussion about how we can feel motivated in our bhakti by sadhakas, even though they still have faults. So this is not you're asking questions of me, this is me asking a question of you. So how is it that we can feel motivated and enlivened in our relationship with Krishna by sadhaka devotees, even though they still are not free from the material impasse?
I have a question from what you were reading, no, about this.
What?
Because you were mentioning about the sadhaka, devoting bhava is still in sadhana bhakti.
Well, you can say they're in sadhana bhakti, you can say they're in sajja bhakti. It's just like when Hiranyakashipu said, I don't want to be killed in the day or the night. And so Nrsingadev killed him in twilight. Like right now where I am, it's sunrise. Is sunrise day or night? Oh, it's day and it's night. Which is it? It's the end of night, the beginning of day. So bhava is the end of sadhana and the beginning of sajja. Is it sadhana or is it sajja? You could say either.
But in relation to this, I was reading that even a devotee in sadhana bhava bhakti is sometimes, often, and sometimes time to time, having darshan of the Lord. I was reading. So
yes, but that can, of course, I mean, Krishna's interesting.
And I have a question in relation to this. This darshan of the Lord is seeing Krishna face to face, or seeing Krishna in a very personal way in how everything happens around us.
Well, seeing Krishna in a personal way as to how everything happens around us can be done by the Kanista Adhikari also. So certainly that would be done by people who are in this category. But also would be some more direct, even though it may be fleeting and not as permanent as what happens in prema. So I still have a question for all of you. There's not really taking questions. I'm asking questions right now. So how is it that those who are sadhakas can be an ashraya for us? Vedagarbha Prabhu?
Yes. One thought that I had is that, for instance, our spiritual masters, most of the time they are sadhakas, and they definitely invoke some, or at least should invoke some love for Krishna in us.
Okay, how does that happen? Even though they're still, as Rupa Goswami says, not free from the material impasse, even those in bhava are not fully free. So how is it that somebody who's not fully free can inspire us in bhakti?
If they still have some emotion towards Krishna, so some love, they can inspire us.
Very nice. Phaneshwari Lakshmi.
Maybe this is a material example, but if somebody is a really good, let's say a speaker or a good storyteller, and he tells a story, and as a devotee, and he's a good storyteller, he tells something about Krishna's pastimes, and that can inspire you.
Yes, Yes. Very nice. Mahalakshmi.
Yes. For instance, devotees, our spiritual masters and teachers and devotees who inspire us, and they are preachers, Krishna is so happy with them, so satisfied that Krishna reciprocates with them. So we feel a reflection of Krishna while they are talking and is spreading Krishna consciousness. And that's why we feel also inspired.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Asutosh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. A little contradictory but healthy competition. Seeing the sadhakas moving forward in their journey, we get inspired and we also want to catch up. So that's what I felt sometimes really motivates me.
I like that also. Okay. Prabhupada says competition gives life. Yes. And Anuragi Sudevi, inspire from Uttama Adhikari, that we'll be talking about next. So right now we're talking about being inspired by the Majjhima Adhikari, not the Uttama Adhikari. Uttama Adhikari is the next topic. Ranga Ramaprabhu?
Hare Krishna Mataji. A devotee might not be in prema, but if he repeats the words of Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas, it is inspiration for us. Just by repeating their words, we also get inspired. We need not be in prema, but the words of Acharyas are so powerful. That's what Prabhupada said. We might not be in that level, but still we can repeat whatever Srila Prabhupada said.
Very nice. Very nice. So we have the pleasure of Krishna with the preacher, the sense of inspiration and competition, the sense that they're representing someone. Let's think in terms of higher rasa as well. So let's say you have a sadhaka, okay? Let's say Krishna Das is a sadhaka, and Krishna Das has started awakening. Oh, I think, that I really feel like I want to be a cowherd boy. I really feel like I want to be Krishna's friend. Started to awaken to that. And then Krishna Das has a friend, Jiva Das, who's also started to awaken to being a cowherd boy. So they're both sadhakas. Although they both started to awaken this feeling in Krishna. So how is it that they can be ashraya for each other, even though neither of them are yet siddhas?
By discussing pastimes, childhood, the Sakya pastimes of Krishna, they can inspire each other more.
Very, very nice. Very nice. Yes, excellent.
Meditating
Excellent.
the pastime of cowherd.
Yes. And it's interesting because our acharyas all tell us that we should associate with like-minded devotees, and that may also be people who are on the planet right now and around us, but who may not be at the platform of prema. Any other thoughts on this question?
Because they both are in the same rasa, they can read books which is related, and they can take more shelter and engage themselves in the service.
Very nice. Yes. Yes. By the way, there are, I don't know if any of you saw the podcast with Hari Parshad about Raganuga Sadhana, but he was making the point that there are groups like this in our Hare Krishna movement. I mean, sometimes people say, oh, no one in our movement is on this platform. And then I would say, well, then what's the use of being in this movement if nobody's on this platform? If Prabhupada's not bringing us to this platform and nobody's on this platform. And there are definitely devotees who associate with each other in terms of their relationship with Krishna. Mahalakshmi, you have something you want to add? This will be the last one.
How do we recognize devotees who are in our similar attraction towards Krishna?
Now that is a very, very interesting question. So if somebody has already started to awaken their relationship to Krishna, and okay, Srila Rupa Goswami is telling me that part of my inspiration is going to be coming from an ashraya, coming from devotees who are similar. You can certainly pray to Krishna to please reveal to me some devotees who are similar. some devotees who have a similar mentality. And Krishna will do that. Just like we say, by the grace of Krishna, one gets Guru, by the grace of Guru, one gets Krishna. So in a similar way that Krishna, through his own transcendental system, will arrange such things. This is what we see practically. Excellent question. Okay, we're going to go on now to the next topic. Okay, now we're going to see about Ashraya of the Uttama Adhikaris. Those who are Siddha devotees, those who are perfected devotees, those who are in Prema Bhakti. So how does Srila Rupa Goswami describes this? And 1, 2, 3, 6. A devotee who's never tired of executing devotional service and is always engaged in Krishna conscious activities, constantly relishing the transcendental mellows in relationship with Krishna. So many times I get devotees asking me, how can I be determined at every moment? And the answer is, well, you got to be in prema. If you're not in prema, sometimes you're going to get tired of executing devotional service, and sometimes you'll forget Krishna, and sometimes you won't be relishing the rasa. Kind of is what it is. Now, interestingly enough, is that Srila Rupa Goswami quotes from 11:20:33 that these devotees may be interested in heaven, liberation, or residence in my abode. In other words, so this would include devotees who want to go to Vaikuntha. This includes wanting to go back to Godhead. So these desires are not disqualifications for being completely perfect siddhas, as described by Srila Rupa Goswami. All right. So those who are already in the perfectional stage, they may achieve this by gradual progress in devotional service or through the mercy of Krishna. Now, generally, the mercy of Krishna is going to accompany some action on the part of a person. Some action. Like even if we say a Jamil, he did devotional service when he was younger, and after he saw the Vishnu Dutas, he again did devotional service. So Krishna devotees aren't generally giving causeless mercy to people for nothing. I mean, that happened with, say, Madhai. So Jaghai got mercy because he tried to stop Madhai, but why did Madhai get mercy? He didn't do anything. So sometimes there's mercy on people who don't do anything, but generally the mercy comes from someone who does something. And even those who achieve perfection through sadhana still have to get mercy. So these are not two absolutely different categories. So we're going to look at right now, we're going to look at those who become perfect, either through sadhana or through mercy. And after our break, we'll look at those who are always perfect. But these are the categories of siddha who act as ashraya. Okay, so we're going to look first at those who become perfect by sadhana, then we're going to look at those who become perfect by siddha. Okay, so perfect by sadhana is Markandeya Rishi. He performed sadhana, and through his sadhana, he became perfect. Again, of course, there is some mercy involved with this. Another example is Narada Muni. Narada Muni, in his previous life as the son of a maidservant, I'm sure you're all familiar with that story, how he ate the prasadam from the Bhaktivedantas. He listened to them, and he executed meditation the way they had taught him, and from that he became perfect. Getting perfection by mercy. So the wives of the brahmanas who were getting yajna. So at this time, these women were not engaged in a reformatory system. They were serving those who had engaged. So in other words, they were serving their husband who had engaged in different processes of sadhana. They were not personally engaged in that. In very ancient times, women did sometimes live in brahmacharya ashrams and so forth. These things seem to shift whether or not women are doing these sort of things. but the wives got mercy, got perfection by mercy. Again, it's not that they didn't do anything. They said, let's bring Krishna food, and from that they got mercy. So they did something, but it was primarily mercy. They weren't engaged in some long sadhana. Another example, Sukadeva Goswami, where he was always he was meditating on the Brahman. Now, he also did something. He was hearing the Bhagavatam from within the womb of his mother. So he was doing something, but he got full bhakti primarily through mercy. It wasn't primarily through sadhana. Other examples are mentioned in chapter 17 of Nectar Devotion, the inhabitants of Jangala province, Prahlad Maharaj, and Mugrari the hunter. So Mugrari the hunter is a nice example. He wasn't doing any sadhana at all, zero, zippo. Now, of course, he did do something. He surrendered to Narada. He offered Narada some gifts. He said, I'll give you some animal skins as gifts. And he also said, okay, I want to hear from you. I surrender to you. I will accept your instructions. So he did do something. I mean, we don't see that mercy just like someone's walking down the street and mercy just falls on them. They're generally doing something. There's a very interesting person who became Brahman realized, although essentially I was just reading through some of his writings. He's passed away now, but he was talking about the surrendering to the divine as, you know, as the supreme being and feeling oneness with the Lord. And he said, these are not two stages of advancement, but these exist simultaneously. And I was thinking, oh, Chinta Beta Beta Tattva. He evidently achieved full perfection without doing anything. He was a researcher who was an agnostic, and he ended up, there was a murder attempt on him, and the near-death experience, he became an enlightened being. However, his wife was also an academic. They were both scholars. They're both professors. His wife wrote papers about saintly persons in various religious traditions, and he would help her. So he was doing something. He was doing something when he got this mercy. But again, it's primarily mercy. Another example is Bali Maharaj. Of course, again, Bali Maharaj did something. He did give all of his possessions to Vamandev, but again, his coming to Prema Bhakti was primarily mercy. Okay, and Srila Rupa Goswami quotes Bhagavatam 3:15-25, a person as a definition, a person who's free from the false egoism of material existence, or an advanced mystic, that these are different categories of siddhas. So 3:15, quoting again 3:15-25, so joyful by constant execution of the regulative principles of devotional service that they achieve the special favor of the Lord. So here we see this combination of sadhana and kripa, really, that they're so joyful by doing their sadhana that Krishna gives them mercy. Oh, Krishna, I'd love to do this service for you. I love to do this service. I love to do this. I love to serve. And Krishna's like, fine, I will open up the gates of prema for you. And again, quoting 3:15-25, that Yamaraj is afraid to go near such devotees. And another definition given by Srila Rupa Goswami, that they automatically melt with ecstasy. Many transcendental symptoms become manifest in their bodies. Remember, with the sadhakas, we were reading about some of the sattva kabhavs, like crying and shivering. But here we have fully melted heart and many, many, many symptoms of transcendence. Okay, I want to again open this up for a general discussion. So I'm asking you questions. And the question that I'm asking you is how we can feel motivated in our love for Krishna by those who are perfect, by the Siddha devotees. So how we who have not yet realized our relationship with Krishna, and how a devotee who has realized their relationship with Krishna, how they can feel inspired by the Siddha devotees, the Uttama Adhikaris. Any thoughts?
Prabhu, I had a distraction. Can you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. How can we devotees, whether we have not yet realized our relationship with Krishna or we have started to realize our relationship with Krishna, how can we have as ashrayas the Uttama Adhikaris, the perfected devotees, whether they've become perfected, and these are perfected devotees who've achieved perfection. They didn't start perfect, they achieved perfection. We're looking at those kind of devotees. We're not looking right now at the Nityasiddhas. Gaurangi Gandharvika?
Well, firstly, if they have achieved perfection, then it would give me a little hope that hopefully I can get there one day, one life. And also, it's very infectious, and you feel like, I want to be like that. I want to love Krishna like that. I want to change my life, or I want to cry. And sometimes when they're crying for Krishna and they're experiencing, then they infect that, and you also feel these emotions that I haven't felt like by myself.
Yes, yes, it's nice you say that because at various points later on, Srila Rupa Goswami will be discussing the Abbas. I mean, that was discussed in the Eastern Ocean with the Bhava Abbas, but he also will discuss Rati Abbas, Sattvika Abbas, the different reflections. And these, Prabhupada talks about also, Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada in Eastern Ocean about Bhava, that this Bhav Abbas can become Bhava. So if we're of course, you were talking about prema, not bhava, but if we're around devotees who've achieved prema, either by sadhana or by kripa, and being around them, yes, we can get a shadow or reflection of their feelings, which if we cultivate that can become the real thing. Yes. Nardarishi.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, not only by reading of the journey, but also reading about how they serve Krishna and the connection achieve. That's very inspiring too.
Wow. So encouraged by their journey and by their service. Ram Narine said, aspire to reach their level. Good. Sudevi Gaurangi said, inspiration arriving from saintly association. It's a huge motivation. And Faneshwari Lakshmi said, maybe we can get there too. Yes. Okay. Prem Prakash Haridas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. It certainly would increase the faith, make it stronger, and the determination in me. This faith and determination certainly will lead to more seva bhav, and I would look forward to their kripa.
Oh, okay, great. Great. So Prabhala Gopal said these include members of the Yadu dynasty who are eternally perfect. Yes, but we're not talking about the eternally perfect right now. We will talk about the eternally perfect after our break. Okay, so right now we're talking about the achieved perfect. So what Asutosh Sharma says, listening to them more and more go by their Shabda Praman. Yes, you mean Praman, not Pranam. Yes. Those consistent serving Lord inspire us to develop the same mood to serve the Lord. Now, this is especially important, Anurangani Sudevi, for those of us who have realized some of our relationship with Krishna. So if I've realized something that I want to see Krishna as my child, and I associate with a prema bhakta who's achieved prema, they're not eternally perfect, they've achieved prema, that Krishna is their child, that really encourages me to attain that mood. Yes, get following on their path. Mahalakshmi, you had another idea?
Well, it's very similar to what is already been expressed.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, so we're going to take a break and then we will discuss the eternally perfect, the Nityasiddha devotees. So we're going to take a break. It's going to be about 14 minutes. So again, where I am in the world, it's 7:56. We're going to take a break until 8 o'clock, 8:10 where I am. So, oh, yes, they do austerity. Their austerity also inspires us. So wherever you are, it's going to be 14 minutes from now, which will be 10 minutes after the hour or 40 minutes after the hour, depending on where you are in the world. And please take a real break. Please get up and move. Thank you. Okay, we have a question in the chat. As Rupanugas, we are all followers of Srila Rupa Goswami who are in the mood of the Manjaris. What's your point of view if a devotee of ISKCON chooses a different ashraya and follows a different rasa, Vatsalya ras or Sakya ras? What rasa we have is going to be discussed in the fifth wave as under the Staibhav category. It will be discussed, I'm pretty sure, in the last part of the Staibhav. I think we have 3 parts in Staibhav. Let me just check that. Yeah, pretty sure that's going to be in part 3. That's going to be our second to last class. Our Staibhav is our eternal relationship with Krishna, which is the personal choice of the jiva without beginning. We are all followers of Srila Rupa Goswami in terms of following the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Srila Rupa Goswami is telling us that our rasa with Krishna is our own choice according to our own taste, without beginning, and therefore following him is following our own taste. The concept that we would follow his mood if it's not our mood, that would not be following him. So his instructions is follow your own mood, and following him would be to follow that as Srila Rupa Goswami or as Srila Rupa Manjari. I hope that answers your question, but we will discuss that later. Okay. So now we're going to look at the Nityasiddha devotees. So these are persons who are always, they don't have to follow any sadhana. They didn't become perfect through mercy. They're always perfect. They've never been conditioned souls. They're always, of course, interestingly, sometimes a person is called a Nityasiddha devotee if their sadhana siddhi or kripa siddhi was in another life. So sometimes someone's described as a Nityasiddha if from the beginning of that particular life they have always been a perfect devotee, even if they were achieved siddha through sadhana or endowed kripa in another life. So that's just to bring that up. No, I can't take questions right now. Okay, so their chief quality, they have prema, which is 10 million times greater than the prema for the self. Now, this is a very interesting way of understanding. Something that I refer to a lot is when Krishna expanded himself as the cowherd boys and the calves after Lord Brahma stole them. And then the cows and the parental gopis had more love for Krishna, who was in the form of their child or their calf, than they had for their biological children. And Parikshit was astonished by this. He said, people always have, generally, they have more love for their biological children than for other people's children. How is it that they had more love for Krishna than for their own children? And Srila Sukadeva Goswami said, you know, our greatest love is for ourselves. He said, we take care of our family, our friends, even our body, because they relate to us, and we take care of our body and mind because the soul is there. But Krishna is the self of the self. He is the Param Atma. He is the super self. And ultimately, we are attached to ourself because we are part of Krishna. So what's also being implied here, to have 10 million times greater prema for Krishna than for the self, also implies that we have prema for ourselves. Self-hatred is not humility, and it is not spiritual. So the devotee who sees themselves as soul loves themselves, and they love Krishna even more, 10 million times more. Here's some example of Nityasiddha devotees. O beautiful Satyabhama, I've come because of the prayers of Brahma and the Devatas, and my associates have all taken birth with me. O goddess, the Yadavas that you see are all my associates and are full of all qualities like me. They always hold me alone as dear. So when Krishna appears in this material world, there are devotees who become siddhas, who join his pastimes. There are devotees who are at upper stages of sadhana who join his pastimes. And there are ordinary people who seem to be there as well. And then there are Krishna's Nityasiddha devotees who come and join in his pastimes, so that we can actually hear something about those Nityasiddha devotees. And this is a verse that's quoted by Srila Sanatana Goswami also in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita. This is a very often quoted verse in the prayers of Lord Brahma, 10:14:32, that Srila Rupa Goswami is referring to. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the other inhabitants of Vrajabhumi. There is no limit to their good fortune, because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal supreme Brahman, has become their friend. So these are the eternally perfect devotees. And this is the cowherd men in 10:26:13. They said, how is it that, dear Nanda, how is it that we and all the other residents of Raja cannot give up our constant affection for your son? And how is it that he is so spontaneously attracted to us? So they can understand that this kind of attraction was only possible between the soul and God. It wasn't possible between two jivas. So they were like, two jivas can't love each other this much. What's going on here? So this is some evidence of the Nityasiddhas. Okay, so the way that this quote from 10:26:13, the way Srila Rupa Goswami explains it, he said one can understand that the inhabitants of Raja are eternal associates, they are Nityasiddhas, by the words eternal friend, and by how is it he is so spontaneously attracted to us. Now, how Srila Prabhupada translates that same statement, so this statement of, okay, so you have Srila Rupa Goswami is quoting this verse. He's explaining that verse here. Srila Prabhupada, how he translates this explanation, his translation is, anyone who becomes exhilarated by hearing of the pastimes of Lord Krishna when he was present on this earth with his associates is to be understood as Nityasiddha, eternally perfect. So this exhilaration obviously isn't, if it's an indication of being a Nityasiddha, then it can't be just, wow, that's a nice pastime. It must be a deep and eternal attraction. This is a deep and eternal attraction between the Lord and the devotees. So Nityasiddhas, the Yadava cowherd people, descending from the spiritual planet by the Lord's will, take birth with the appearance of Lord Krishna, and then return to his eternal Dhamma along with him. The birth of these devotees is not caused by the bondage of karma. So why is it says the Yadava cowherd people? So many of the cowherd people in Vrindavan are also related to the Yadavas. Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev have the same, I think, grandfather. I think their fathers were brothers. So there is some association with the Yadavas, but this is the concept that these Nityasiddha devotees, they have come from the spiritual world with Krishna to his eternal pastimes. Okay, as stated in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself, his birth, deeds, and activities are all transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam evamyo veti tatvata tvartva deham punarjanma naitimam eti sorjuna. Similarly, the birth, deeds, and activities of the associates of the Lord are also transcendental. There's a similar statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the associates of Lord Chaitanya, that they are eternally perfect devotees. And here Prabhupada makes the point, he said, as it is an offense to consider oneself to be Krishna, so it is offensive to consider oneself to be Yasoda, Nanda, or any associate of the Lord. We should always remember that they are transcendental, they are never conditioned souls. So we can be a follower of Mother Yasoda, a follower of Nanda Maharaj, a follower of Lalita, a follower of Sudama, but we shouldn't think that we are them. So we can have a mood like them, but we are not them, just like we are not Krishna. they are eternally perfect. At least I'm definitely not eternally perfect. Now, this is an interesting statement. Srila Prabhupada says all the ever liberated souls who accompany the Lord have the first 55 of his qualities without any doubt. This is interesting because previously it said that the liberated souls have the first 50 and that the next 5 are not for the jivas but for Krishna, Lord Shiva, and Vishnu, and I have no answer to this. Now, some of these qualities, it's mentioned by our acharyas in commenting on this statement by Sri Rupa Goswami, that some of these qualities, such as the ability to give anyone yoga siddhis, may not be suitable for rasa, but they're mentioned to show the superior nature of bhakti and the devotees. So some of the qualities, some of these 50 or 55 perhaps, qualities of Krishna may not be suitable for rasa, may not be exhibited by the devotees, but they have them. And this statement is to show how bhakti is superior. Now, by the way, those who become sadhana siddha or kripa siddha also display all these qualities. So it's not only the nitya siddhas, but also the sadhana siddhas and the kripa siddhas. Okay, so I want to have a discussion. Now, this is again my asking you questions. So I want to ask how we feel motivated in our bhakti by the nitya siddha devotees, and how nitya siddha devotees inspire each other in their service. So thoughts on this, how we can feel inspired by the nitya siddha devotees, and how the nitya siddha devotees act as ashraya for each other. So your thoughts on this. Paneshwari Lakshmi, yes.
The Nitya inspiring each other. I'm thinking of Rohini and Yasodamata talking about the pastimes of Krishna together. That he did this, he did that. Do you know how he did this? He stole the butter, and just talking about his pastimes.
Very nice. Very nice. Some other thoughts? Yes,
For
Mahalakshmi.
sadhakas sharing their love for Krishna. I'm sorry, Mataji.
No, go ahead.
For
We'll take
sadhakas
Mahalakshmi.
sorry,
Nah, I'm confusing. Okay. Mahalakshmi first, and then Sujana.
Okay, Mataji.
While reading about Nitya Siddhas, it's like when we chant Hare Krishna, and many times we have heard from that when we chant Hare Krishna, we are uniting the Lord and his energies, his eternal consort. And so when we read about how they are serving the Lord, we feel inspired, we feel very attracted because the Lord is being pleased, and we can feel that exchange in what I like that. I like how this gopi is making arrangements to meet for the Lord to meet his devotee Srimati Radharani or other devotees.
Very nice. Okay. And Sujana? Sujana?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. I was thinking about Govardhan Leela pastime where if sadhaka meditate upon the Govardhan Leela pastime, he sees the uh, like Nityasiddha's love for Krishna from various from same ashraya aspect, and also uh, ud- uddipana
Deepana.
uddipana aspect. Mataji.
Right. Right now, let's look just at the Ashraya aspect, because we'll look at the Udipana tomorrow. So yes, very nice with Govardhan Leela. Thank you. Sarvani and Shrivasuda?
I was thinking of the story of the Damodara Leela Mataji, how Srimati Radharani saw how Mother Yashna was able to do the impossible by binding Krishna, and that was her favorite pastime. So I think how they can inspire when we see the Nitya Siddhas doing the impossible things with Krishna, and that's what will attract us actually.
Oh, very nice. Then we think, okay, well, well, we can also be inspired like this in our service. Okay, very nice. And okay, we have a question in the chat. Azubanu, well, we already got that one. Okay. The prayers are inspiring. That's a good point about prayers. I was just listening. I'm still listening to a class by Radhika Raman Prabhu about the prayers of the devotees in the Bhagavatam. And so certainly we can say those prayers of the Nityasiddha devotees and become inspired by that. Okay, Sri Devi Gorangi says in the chat, their love awakens our love. The stimulus, especially the residents of Vrindavan, best inspiration for us to feel what and on Krishna was wanting his craving for his association more and more. Very nice. Ekanista Vasuda says, by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, I sincerely appreciate his struggles and encounters, and some of his adventures and activities make me want to follow his footsteps. Especially Srila Prabhupada made samosas for a Western senior lady who told him that she loves that particular Indian savory. So very nice about being inspired by a Nityasiddha. Motivation, so Ram Narini says, motivation derived from their dedication. Very nice. Prabhala Gopala, they're not ordinary conditioned souls, eternally liberated, then return. Yes, but how do they inspire us, Prabhala Gopala? That's the question. I'm not asking for a definition of a Nityasiddha, but I'm asking for how they inspire us. Garangi Gandharvika?
I was thinking how Krishna is always surrounded by his loving devotees. So I think devotees also always want to be in the association of others. So then I'm sure the gopis, instead of just trying to decorate the kunja just by themselves for Radha Madhava, then if they're all trying to work and feed off each other, get more ideas and make the best festival. So that's what I was thinking.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So the gopis together are decorating the kunja. And so they're inspired from each other. And Narada Rishi asks, is there unanimous consensus whether Prabhupada being Nitya Siddha always or achieved? Tamal Krishna Maharaj wrote Srila Prabhupada a letter in this regard, and Prabhupada just said that you shouldn't concern yourself with this question. He said, once you're Siddha, it doesn't matter whether you're Nitya Siddha or achieve Siddha. That Siddha is Siddha. And Prabhupada said, I do not know, but in my previous life I was told that I was a sinless physician. And also there's some conversations that Srila Prabhupada had, I think with Shruti Kirti, his servant, where Prabhupada said that he was in the spiritual world with Krishna, and Krishna asked him to come and preach, and Prabhupada said, oh, it will be very austere. And he said, oh, Krishna said, don't worry, I'll take care of everything for you. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj directly asked Prabhupada that question, and Prabhupada said, once someone's Siddha, it doesn't matter anymore. Still, we have the stories of the achieved Siddhas that inspire us in different ways than the stories of the Nitya Siddhas. So, and Srila Rupa Goswami is making a distinction in terms of our inspiration from Ashraya as to whether someone's a sadhaka, a sadhana siddha, a kripa siddha, or a nitya siddha. Okay, Mahalakshmi, I don't have time for another one. I need to go on. And I've already called on you. I've already called on you. Oh no, the world's going to end. Okay. Sorry, I have everything timed. I can't keep the time absolutely. So now we're going to look at devotees as Ashraya according to their rati or staibhav. So before it was according to their achievement. So here we're looking at this concept that according to what staibhav they have, or their rati, and this applies to both sadhakas and siddhas. So practitioner sadhakas are those who have developed rati but not completely extinguished their anartas, who are qualified to see Krishna directly. That's how we're defining. Sri Rupa Goswami is defining sadhaka here and quoting the 11th canto description of the Majjhima devotee. So Srila Prabhupada translates qualified to see Krishna directly. Prabhupada translates this as who has qualified himself to enter into the kingdom of God. And as Mahalakshmi pointed out, there are levels of seeing Krishna directly. That's not a yes, no, but there's different levels and types. Okay, so according to rasa, there's of course neutrality. The plants, the trees, the cows. The Ashraya devotees can be servants and sons. So those with a feeling of servitude and those who directly take up the role of servant. And the second type has the position of Ashraya. So those who are actually taking up the role of a servant. Those who are friends. Now this is discussed much more in the Western Ocean, the different categories, subcategories, and sub-subcategories of these different of the five primary rasas with Krishna. Those who are elders, those who are parental, those who are lovers, which of course can be both either the queens or the gopis. So some additional considerations that Srila Rupa Goswami brings up about Ashraya is that in the Brahma Vimohan Lila, Krishna expanded himself into so many cowherd boys, cows, and cows. So in this case, Krishna was both the Vishaya and the Ashraya. Because as the expansion of the boys who were Krishna were loving Krishna, and as the expansion of the calves who were Krishna were loving Krishna. So this is a rare situation where Krishna is both his devotee and object. Of course, you can say this is also true with Lord Chaitanya, who is both the Vishaya and the Ashraya. You can say this is true with Govardhan Hill, who's both the Vishaya and the Ashraya. So there are some situations like that. And Srila Jiva Goswami has this interesting commentary on 2.116, which I can't say I fully understand. I consulted with a lot of people, and I'm giving my own explanation as far as I can. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, among the associates in the Lord's pastime, the distinction of Ashraya and Vishaya takes place in all except the most intimate associates. For the most intimate among the intimate, there is no distinction of Ashraya and Vishaya. In that case, only Krishna as a Lambana is prominent. Now, the only sense I can make out of this is what Srila Rupa Goswami talks about in Ujjwala Nilamani about the gopis, that the gopis have a samartha mood and they don't see any distinction between their pleasure and Krishna's pleasure. That there's a kind of oneness that happens that erases this distinction. And please don't ask me any more about this, because this is, as we say in America, this is above my pay grade. I am not the most intimate among the intimate associates of the Lord, and therefore I can read this and tell you about it, but I don't think I can really explain it. Okay, so we have time now for a general discussion on any of these points, anything anybody wants to discuss, or any questions that they want to ask. We have one question in the chat. Somebody just wrote me directly about what books to read according to the different rasas. So, of course, no matter what rasa awakens in you, still Prabhupada says we will relish every drop of Shastra and every drop of the books of our acharyas. So even if you're in Madhurya Ras, you're still going to read about Mother Yasoda. Prabhupada, the anger he had at the Gopi Baba Club was when they said, oh, we don't want to hear about Mother Yasoda. And then Prabhupada got furious and he said, this is all Sahajya, and he disbanded the whole thing. So that's one symptom of being immature and unqualified, is that one doesn't relish all of Krishna's pastimes. But as far as if we have awakened to a particular rasa, we're going to want to particularly read the pastimes about those specific devotees. And there are so many books about, of course, Krishna's Madhurya Bhav, many books of our acharyas. There's a nice book about the cowherd boys. There's two translations of it, one by Dasara Sutta, one by Bhanuswami, Prayo something, that's available about the cowherd pastimes. I don't have any books specifically about Vatsalya Bhav or Dasya Bhav or Shanta Bhav, but certainly there are many pastimes like that throughout the literature. So I know of one devotee who's awakened to an aspiration to be one of the bees, one of Krishna's bees in Goloka Vrindavan. And so whenever I run into verses about the bees, I always send them to her for meditating on. So any verses or songs about, and there's lots of them. There's lots and lots. But I've sent her a whole bunch of them, but also as I go through my reading, whenever I run into them, yes. So I will always share that. Okay. Any general questions or discussions? Asutosh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for beautiful commentary and the lecture. One question though that I'm thinking, contemplating: can a person have different rasas? Can a person feel different rasas in their lifetime? For example, as a kid, they may feel that I am friend with Krishna, and when they grow up, they are into parenthood. They feel like my Krishna is like my children. So I was just thinking if that rasa changes during one's lifetime.
Excellent question. Our relationship with Krishna is eternal without beginning, and it doesn't change. So there are stages of development of our realization of our rasa. We can also, as I mentioned previously, expand and experience different rasas in different places with different incarnations simultaneously, like Uddhava, who's primarily Krishna's friend with some servitude, is also a creeper in Vrindavan and Shantaras. The Pandavas, who are all in Sakyaras, are also trees in Vrindavan in Shantaras. So one can be in different rasas with different forms of the Lord in different places simultaneously.
What is the problem? It's a charge mutton. It's taking power saver.
Somebody needs to mute. Can our organizers please? Yes, thank you. But those are all eternal. Now, if you're talking about someone who's immature and hasn't actually awakened their rasa with Krishna, but it's just kind of an imagination, that could be the point. Maybe when you're a little kid, you think, oh, I want to play with Krishna like I play with my friends. But that's on the mental platform. That's not actually a realized relationship with Krishna. There is also a kind of neutrality, and this will be discussed. I think it will be discussed in the Southern Ocean in the fifth wave, although it's also discussed in the first wave of the Western Ocean, sorry, that the different types of neutrality. And one type of neutral love is a person who's just, they're tasting a little of all the rasas. But that neutral love in itself doesn't become Shanta Ras. That's a kind of Shanta Staibhav that cannot develop into Shanta Rasa. Now, there's only one kind of Shanta Staibhav that develops into Shanta Rasa. There's another kind of Shanta Staibhav that it's said of the general love of people for God, like the love of a child for God, in a very general way. There is also that actual Shanta Rasa can be a preliminary stage, as some of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha who are in Shantaras may then realize other rasas with Krishna and enter later into Vrindavana. I hope does that clarify, or do you want to discuss that further?
That clarifies, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. We will be discussing that in the fifth wave of the Southern Ocean. I think it's going to be in part one of Staibhav, and we will also definitely be discussing it in the first wave. I'm going to be teaching Western and Northern with the VIHE in January, if you want to sign up for that. And that's definitely discussed in the first wave of the Western. Also on my YouTube channel, so expertly managed by Nardarishi Dasi, who's with us today. So the recorded videos of the Nectar Devotion are all there on my Urmila Devi Dasi YouTube channel. Don't just look up Urmila, you'll get a Bollywood star. You have to look up Urmila Devi Dasi. And if you go to the playlist for Nectar Devotion, you can find the answer. There is where we discuss the varieties of Shantaras. And one of them is this
I've shared the
experience.
link yesterday on the WhatsApp group for some people who asked already.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nardarishi. Excellent. Okay. Yes, so she said that If you just go to YouTube and look for Urmila Devi Dasi channel, but Nardi, she said that she posted a link in the WhatsApp group for this class. Yes? Okay, excellent. Paneshwari Lakshmi.
You kind of answered this, but this has been on my mind from the beginning. We're always warned about being sahajiya and all this stuff. So, can you kind of elaborate a little bit more about that as
Okay,
to,
we're
I
warned
guess, what
about
you,
being Sahaja, but we're also warned about not staying on the Kanista level. Both warnings are there. So, and there are times that Prabhupada defines the Majjhima level as coming to Raganuga Bhakti, coming to spontaneous devotion. And Srila Prabhupada translated this nectar devotion early in the movement and wanted all of us to read the whole thing. So I see it as, don't jump on the stage and perform the violin without having any lessons and being competent. And at the same time, learn to play the violin so you can go up and perform. It's not that because we shouldn't do something cheaply, that therefore we shouldn't do it rightly. It's now entering into this area of bhakti is also not exactly something we can do exactly through intention. The beginning of our understanding of our relationship with Krishna is bestowed by mercy. So, what we can do is we can act in such a way to want to receive that mercy and to attract that mercy. But going from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti it's not a question of saying, well, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 10 years, or I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 15 years, and I think now I'm ready, and so I'm going to, that's not it at all, because it's a spontaneous awakening of a particular feeling for Krishna. And as I was just reading in Sri Swami's book, Sankalpa Kaumudi, he was saying that this awakening can happen at any time, but generally it happens in the later stages of anartha nivritti. So usually as most of the, or half of the anarthas are removed, then a person Cheto Darpanam Arjunam, they realize their relationship with Krishna. So like one devotee I know, she's not anymore. She used to be a full-time pujari. And one day when she was dressing the deities, she was hearing Bhagavatam class. And the speaker said, well, what relationship would you like to have with Krishna? And all of a sudden she had a spontaneous feeling, I want to play ball with Krishna. I want to be Krishna's friend. And she talked to me about it, and she said, how can I have this feeling? Where did it come from? I'm still not free of all the material problems. And I said, well, this is coming from Krishna. And the person who has this awakening, they are going to feel unqualified. They're not going to think, oh yes, I'm advanced devotee, now I'm ready for this. They're going to feel very unqualified. And unless they commit some heavy Vaishnava aparad, it's not going to go away. Staibhav, it stays there. So even if they try to deny it, it will keep asserting itself. I mean, just a few days ago, I had one devotee say to me, she had watched Hari Parshad's presentation, and she said, well, I don't know, am I performing Raganuga? And I said, well, do you have a sense of your eternal relationship with Krishna? And she said, oh yes, for sure. She said, I definitely, Krishna is my this. She said, there's no question about it. And I said, well, do you particularly like to meditate on the devotees who have that mood? And she said, oh yeah. I said, the devotees in the pastimes in that mood? She said, oh yeah, but I mean, she reads everything. She's always studying, she's teaching Bhakti Shastri, she's teaching Bhagavad Gita, she's reading everything. And I said, and do you especially like to do the services that help you cultivate that mood? And she said, oh, definitely. And I said, well, that's Raganuga sadhana. That's it, right there. So Sahajiya is somebody they're not actually following the process. They're having illicit sex, they're taking intoxication, they're not following the process, and they just imagine themselves to be somebody. It's almost always one of the gopis. Definitely the Sahajiyas don't usually think that they're a cow or a bee or something. It's almost always one of the gopis. And yeah, they'll say, "Oh, the gopis," and then they go smoke a cigarette. So this is, I mean, Prabhupada usually says negative things about those people. Occasionally he says positive things about them. Occasionally he says, well, at least they're focused on Krishna. So at least they have some focus. But yeah, I mean, like I visited a devotee's home many years ago, and they had their home was full of Rasika books and Rasika paintings, and and it was a man and woman living together who weren't married to each other. And I said, this is not compatible. This is an incompatible situation. I said, you're living together without marriage, and you have all this Rasika stuff all over the place. I said, get married. So they did. But that's I had to push a little bit, but anyway. So that's the kind of warning. Don't do things cheaply, but it doesn't mean don't do them. We should at least be aspiring. We should be hankering. When is that day that Krishna will reveal to me my relationship with Krishna? When am I going to be able to do that? I mean, some people take this warning against Sahajiyas to say, well, we should just stay on the Vaidhi platform, but that's not the instructions of Srila Prabhupada or Acharyas. That wouldn't be following Srila Rupa Goswami. Then we wouldn't be following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Again, can't do it artificially. I mean, some analogous thing is we're supposed to become adults. We're not supposed to stay children, but you can't force being an adult. You can't pretend to be an adult when you're a child. That doesn't work. You become an adult when you become an adult. It's not really under our control. When do we become an adult physically? Now, once you become an adult physically, then it's on you to become an adult in terms of responsibility. The physical becoming an adult is not under our control. That happens spontaneously whenever it happens. But when we start physically becoming an adult, it's on us. We have to do something. And, a child who's not physically an adult, they can't just, I mean, they do sometimes, but if they just say, well, I'm just going to now do whatever I want. One of my kids, when he was 10, he said, okay, Mata, don't tell me what I do right. Don't tell me what I do wrong. Don't tell me anything. And I said, sorry, that's not going to work. You're only 10 and you're my child. That's my job to do that. Now that he's 44, I don't need to do that anymore. So pretending to be an adult when you're 10, that's like being a sahajiya. It's not going to work. But once that awakens in you, then one is supposed to respond to that appropriately. Just like once we become a physical adult, we're supposed to respond to it appropriately. And how do we respond to it appropriately? Well, that's why Srila Rupa Goswami wrote this book, and that's why Srila Prabhupada translated it. That's why he did it. He didn't write the book, Srila Rupa Goswami didn't write the book, and Prabhupada didn't give a summary of study of it for us to say, well, this has nothing to do with me. Okay. You can't force your Staibhav Nardarshi. You just can't.
Thank you.
It's like you can't force being an adult. I mean, I guess you could go to a doctor and get them to inject you with hormones or something. But, one has to wait till it arises. How should we deal with such people? If you see it's forced, then just respect them from a distance. Like that devotee who came up to me and said, well, now I've been a devotee long enough, then I should just start doing this. It wasn't my place to argue with him. I wasn't his authority. We didn't have that kind of relationship. But I just thought, well, that's not right. Just offered my respects and kept my distance. Vedagarbha Puru.
Yes, I want to ask one more question regarding this. I thought, I assume that this Raganuga beginning or Raganuga sadhana should happen under the guidance of Guru. So that's, and regarding to what you said, that this awakening, it may happen genuinely, or it may be artificial, or say imagined. And that's why the Guru is needed. Am I correct or not in this regard?
Guru or a senior devotee?
Yes, I mean,
Srila
Guru
Bhaktivedanta
in general.
Saraswati says that you should approach some senior Vaishnava. It may not be your official guru. That, for a variety of reasons, it may not be your official guru. But yes, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati specifically says that when this first arises, one should consult with other Vaishnavas. So, just like there's guidance in Vaidhi sadhana, there's guidance in Raganuga sadhana, and frankly, there's guidance even among the siddhas. We're talking about the ashraya is operating among the Nitya Siddha devotees. So even among the Nitya Siddha devotees, they're guiding each other. Raghunath Das Goswami talks about Vishaka as the guru. I mean, Vishaka and Lalita are guiding Srimati Radharani in the worship of Krishna. Nanda Maharaj is guiding Mother Yasoda. Mother Yasoda is guiding Mother Rohini. So this guidance from one devotee to another takes place eternally. And yes, if one feels that one has the awakening of their relationship with Krishna, yes, one should take guidance from appropriate senior Vaishnavas. That's essential, especially in the beginning. Yes, that is absolutely essential. It's true, again, across the board. Mahalakshmi?
We were listening now that a Nityasiddha devotee can be one who has attained perfection in a previous life. And
yes, sometimes we will see, at least Srila Prabhupada sometimes uses the term Nityasiddha devotee for that kind of devotee. Yes.
Because when we recite the prayers to our spiritual teachers, we go to several Vyasapujas or different Vaishnavas, and they say this, no, Nitya Siddha, so and so. Is this because they are Nitya Siddha from previous lives, or because of their practice, or because is there a stage when one is entering the perfection stage?
First of all, just because we say something doesn't mean that it's true. You know, in the early zonal acharya days of ISKCON, we were calling all of the 7 zonal acharyas Paramahamsas.
Yes, Paramahamsa.
You remember that, right? We were
Yes,
saying the
yes.
Premadwani prayers for each of the 11 zonal acharyas and calling them all Paramahamsas. So just because we call somebody something doesn't mean that they are something. That's the first point. And I am 100% sure that of all those people who are giving who are acting as Diksha and Shiksha gurus in ISKCON, they are not all on the Prema platform. Some of them are, but I'm also sure that some of them are not. That some of them are on the platform of Bhava, or some of them may be on the platform of Nista or Ruchi or Shakti. Those persons who are on the platform of Prema, are they Nitya Siddhas or Sadhana Siddhas or Kripa Siddha? Again, when Prabhupada wrote to Tamal Krishna, he said it doesn't matter. Once one is Siddha, they are Siddha. But I'm just simply making the point that Srila Prabhupada will sometimes refer to a devotee as Nitya Siddha because from the time of their birth, they always remembered Krishna, even though in their previous life they were a sadhana siddha or a kripa siddha. I'm just simply noting that Srila Prabhupada sometimes uses the word Nitya Siddha in that way. I'm not really like giving a commentary on that or an explanation of that. I'm simply bringing that to your attention.
And if one becomes a Nitya Siddha by practice, then there is a
Once
state.
you're Siddha, it's considered that you're Nitya Siddha, even though you may be a sadhana siddha or a kripa siddha. So why is Srila Rupa Goswami distinguishing in terms of ashraya between the sadhana siddha, the kripa siddha, and the nitya siddha? My own realization is that because each of these may inspire us in terms of ashraya in different ways. So I'm going to be inspired. I'm going to have the ashraya inspire me if they're a sadhaka in one way. I'm going to have a sadhana siddha devotee as ashraya inspire me in another way. A kripa siddha ashraya devotee inspire me in another way. And the nitya siddha devotees inspire me in another way. And because there's some slight difference in that taste, as we discussed, that's why we had a discussion after each of them. We had a discussion, how can you be inspired by the sadhaka devotees? How can you be inspired by the sadhaka siddhas or kripa siddha devotees? And how can you be inspired by the nitya siddha devotees? So I believe because the flavor is a little bit different. If I know that somebody is sadhaka siddha or kripa siddha, then I'm inspired by the fact that they achieved siddha, and I'm hoping I can achieve siddha. When I look at the nitya siddhas who did not achieve siddha, that's not going to inspire me because they didn't achieve siddha.
How is possible that the Nitya Siddha has not achieved Siddha?
Well, she's not done something to achieve siddha. She's always siddha.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to, when I'm meditating on Lalita or I'm meditating on Mother Yasoda, I'm not going to be inspired by their journey to siddha because they didn't do any journey to siddha.
Yeah.
When I'm meditating on Narada Muni, I'm going to be, or Dhruva, or I'm going to be inspired by their journey, not just their achievement.
Yes.
When I'm meditating on the Kripa Siddhas, I'm going to be inspired by how they attracted Krishna's mercy, not just their achievement. But anyone who becomes Siddha is then considered Nitya Siddha. And the reason for that is that there's no time ultimately spiritually.
Wow.
And that's another deep topic that's beyond my pay grade. But in the, spiritual perfection, there is no such thing as past, present, and future. It's all present. So once you achieve Siddha, it's like you were never fallen. Therefore, Prabhupada often says we're not really fallen. And our whole sojourn in the material consciousness, it becomes nothing once we achieve Siddha. So on that wonderful note, I think we will end. And again, to understand these 5 components of rasa. And tomorrow, Krishna willing, we'll be doing the 3rd part of Vibhava. We'll be doing Vibhava Udipana. And that's a really nice meditation because there's so many categories and things that can act as Udipanas, even for those of us who are beginning sadhakas. Anything good in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Jiva Goswami, the Shastras and all of our acharyas. Anything wrong in this presentation is my responsibility. Please either correct or ignore the wrong and take the good.